welcome to my channel. Today, I want to share with you a story about unexpected emotions, quiet self-discovery, and the beautiful chaos that comes with loving someone you never thought you would. Let's dive right into it. I always thought I was a pretty open-minded guy. I went to art school, had friends of all orientations, and never felt weird about any of it. But nothing prepared me for what happened that rainy Thursday afternoon in the campus library. I was half asleep on one of those awful beanbags, pretending to study for an exam I clearly wasn't going to pass, when Jordan, my best friend since freshman year, came over with this smug little smile on his face. He dropped his phone in front of me and said, "Dude, check out this girl I met online. She's totally your type." Now, Jordan had this weird habit of setting me up with random people he thought I'd like. Most of the time, he was dead wrong, but I humored him anyway because it always made for a good laugh. So I squinted at the phone, trying to focus on the picture, and instantly woke up. She was gorgeous, like anime-level cute, soft wavy hair, big brown eyes, a smile that could end wars, and that outfit, some sort of cosplay. I think short pleated skirt, thigh-high socks, and a delicate little ribbon in her hair. Definitely my type. "Whoa," I muttered. "Who is she?" And that's when Jordan laughed. Not like a ha-ha, that's funny laugh, but this awkward, almost nervous chuckle. He scratched the back of his neck and said, "That's me." I blinked. "What?" He grabbed the phone, flicked through a few more pictures. "Yeah? I've been experimenting with cosplay lately. Thought I'd try something new." I sat there, completely frozen. I could not for the life of me wrap my head around it. That girl, that insanely attractive, effortlessly cute girl, was Jordan. But the thing was, even after he said it, I couldn't unsee how hot he looked. Like, disturbingly so. I wasn't confused. I wasn't grossed out. I was intrigued, curious, and maybe, just maybe, a little bit into it. For the next hour, I barely said a word. Jordan, noticing my silence, started backtracking. "Look, oh man, I didn't mean to weird you out. I was just messing around. Figured you'd think it was funny." I shook my head, still trying to play it cool. "No, it's not that. Wow, you looked really good." He raised an eyebrow. "Good, like good, or good, like, haha. My friend looks dumb in a skirt. Good." I hesitated. Too long, probably, and then I said it. "Good, like dangerously good." The air between us shifted. I could feel it, like some invisible string had been tugged just slightly tighter. Jordan's expression changed, softened, almost like he'd been holding his breath this whole time. "That's not the reaction I was expecting," he murmured. "Yeah. Well," I said, trying to laugh it off. "Me neither." The conversation moved on after that. Kind of. We talked about class, upcoming exams, weekend plans. But my brain kept replaying those photos over and over again, like a glitching slideshow. Every time Jordan looked at me, I felt that weird flutter in my chest that I hadn't felt since high school. That night, I couldn't sleep. Not because of the photos necessarily, but because of what they'd unlocked. Memories of late-night movie marathons with Jordan. The way he'd fall asleep on my shoulder. The way my heart used to skip a beat when he'd mess up his hair and look effortlessly perfect. I'd always chalked it up to admiration, jealousy. Maybe now I wasn't so sure. The next day, we met up for coffee, and I blurted it out. "Hey, how about yesterday?" Jordan looked up from his latte. "Yeah, I think I might be into you. Like, more than just best friend into you." He didn't say anything for a second, just stared, and then the biggest grin spread across his face. "Finally," he said, almost triumphant. "Took you long enough." I blinked. "Wait, finally." Jordan took a slow sip of his latte, clearly enjoying my stunned expression. "Yeah, I've kind of had a thing for you since, like, sophomore year. But you were dating that girl from economics, and then that guy from the music department. So I figured you were straight, or confused, or just oblivious." I was straight, I said. "I think, mostly, I don't know anymore." He leaned forward, a playful smirk on his face. "So my cosplay broke your fragile heterosexuality, shattered it," I muttered, staring down at my coffee like it had all the answers. "Absolutely obliterated," Jordan chuckled. And for the first time in a long time, I felt something click. It wasn't like some dramatic movie moment where everything suddenly made sense. It was more like a puzzle piece quietly falling into place. We didn't make it official right away. At first, we played it cool, like super cool. A lot of lingering glances, brushing hands when we walked side by side, sitting just a little too close on the couch. It was like we were dancing around something we both knew was inevitable. But then came the night. We were at his place, watching some cringy reality dating show ironically but secretly getting way too invested. I was sprawled on his couch. He was sitting on the floor between my legs, leaning back against me. At some point, he reached for the popcorn and his hand brushed my thigh. Neither of us moved. He tilted his head back to look up at me and said, real quiet, "Can I kiss you?" I didn't even answer. I just leaned down and kissed him. It was clumsy, probably awkward, definitely overdue, but it felt right, like something we should have done years ago, something I never knew I was waiting for. After that, everything escalated quickly. We tried to keep it casual at first, told ourselves we were just figuring things out, maybe exploring, but by the end of the week, I was sleeping over at his place more often than not. We'd wake up tangled in his sheets, both grinning like idiots. Every little touch felt electric, and the more time I spent with him, the more I realized how different this felt. I'd dated before, girls, guys, situationships with no labels. But this was easy, comfortable, warm, terrifyingly real. So, after about 10 days of pretending we were still just best friends who occasionally kiss, I sat him down in his kitchen, heart pounding like a drumline in my chest. "I don't want to keep this undefined," I told him. "I want to call you my boyfriend." He smiled, all soft and glowing. "Good, because I've been calling you that in my head for days now." From that moment on, we were official. The next hurdle, telling my family. Now, my family is cool. Really? But there's something inherently terrifying about coming out with a new relationship, especially when it's with your male best friend who's been around for years and whose cosplay pics literally turned your brain upside down. We decided to tell them over dinner. It was a Sunday evening, and Mom had made her famous lemon chicken. Jordan was dressed like he always was, simple, neat, comfortable, no cosplay, no dramatic entrance. But he was visibly nervous. His leg kept bouncing under the table, and he kept readjusting his silverware like the fork was plotting against him. "You good?" I whispered as Mom brought out dessert. He nodded, stiffly. "Yeah, just feels weird being here like this." "You've been here 100 times," I reminded him. "Yeah, but never as your boyfriend." I gave his hand a reassuring squeeze under the table. Then I cleared my throat. "So, I have some news." My mom paused mid-slice of pie. My dad looked up from his glass. "My sister, ever the drama queen," gasped like she already knew what I was about to say. "I'm dating someone," I said. Mom smiled. "Oh, is it someone we know?" I nodded. "Yeah, it's Jordan." There was a brief silence. Then, "Oh, finally," my sister said, rolling her eyes. "Told you two were in love since junior year." "She's lying." I muttered. "She never said that." "Yes, I did." "No, you didn't." "Bet." Dad just chuckled. "Well, at least I don't have to worry about another teenage pregnancy scare. Thank God." I groaned. "Dad?" He shrugged. "What?" It was a real concern. Jordan, red in the face but clearly relieved, laughed nervously. "I think that's the weirdest way I've ever been welcomed into a relationship." My mom, always the peacemaker, reached over and patted his hand. "You've always been my favorite of his friends anyway. Now I have an excuse to see you more." Dinner resumed like nothing happened, just with a little more smiling, a little more warmth. Jordan stopped fidgeting. I stopped stressing. And for the first time in a long time, everything felt okay. You know how people always say that the honeymoon phase is all sunshine and butterflies, that you'll float through it, high on oxytocin and cuddles and dumb inside jokes. Well, they're right, sort of. Those first couple of weeks were magical. We'd sneak kisses in the campus library, share earbuds on the train ride home, spend hours in bed just talking about everything and nothing. He made me playlists with the cheesiest love songs I'd never admit to liking. I brought him flowers from the corner store like some hopeless rom-com boyfriend. But somewhere in the back of my mind, This little whisper kept growing louder. What if this is just a phase? What if I'm not actually into guys, just into Jordan? What if he gets tired of me once the novelty wears off? I didn't want to bring it up. I mean, things were going so well. Why ruin it with overthinking? But Jordan, Jordan, noticed. Of course he did. One night, we were lying in his bed, limbs tangled like always, the room lit only by the glow of his fake galaxy projector. He was tracing lazy circles on my arm, half asleep. When he whispered, "You're quiet tonight," I forced a smile. "Just tired." He turned to face me, propping himself up on one elbow. "Is this getting too real for you?" I froze. "What?" "I can tell," he said softly. "You've been pulling back. Just a little." "But I notice." I stared at the ceiling. "I'm not pulling back. I'm just scared." "Of what?" "Of screwing this up." Jordan was quiet for a moment, then said, "Do you remember the first time we met?" I blinked. "You mean that ridiculous freshman mixer where I spilled soda on your sneakers?" He laughed. "Yeah." "You were a disaster." "Thanks. But," he continued, "you also offered me napkins, a slice of pizza, and half your hoodie because the room was too cold. You didn't even know me. But you were kind. You've always been kind." He leaned in, his voice almost a whisper. "You're not going to screw this up. Because this, whatever this is, it's real." I felt my chest tighten. Not in a bad way. In the kind of way that made you realize just how much someone mattered. How terrifying and wonderful that could be. So I nodded. "Okay, yeah, it's real," he smiled. And just like that, the doubts quieted. But of course, life has a habit of throwing in a curveball right when you think you're finally settling in. A few days later, Jordan texted me in the middle of the day. "Hey, found some new cosplay pieces. Want to come over tonight? I want to show you now." By this point, I knew that seeing him in cosplay was kind of like playing with fire. I mean, it was literally the thing that flipped my whole world upside down. But the idea of him showing that side of himself to me, like intentionally, felt different. Intimate. When I got to his apartment, he greeted me at the door wearing joggers and a hoodie. Hair slightly messy. Smile sheepish. "Okay, so don't laugh. I just got these and I haven't worn them for anyone else yet." He disappeared into his room, and I sat there on the couch, already nervous. A few minutes later, the door opened. And then, wow. He stepped out in this soft pastel outfit, light pink cardigan, white skirt, matching socks, hair styled perfectly, soft makeup on. He looked adorable, beautiful, and the way he stood there, shy and uncertain, made my heart ache. "So, what do you think?" he asked, biting his lip. I stood up, walked over to him, took his hands. "I think," I said slowly, "you just made me gay again." He laughed, burying his face in my shoulder. "That's not how it works. Tell that to my brain, or my heart, or literally every part of me right now." We kissed, soft and slow, like the world had shrunk to just the two of us, wrapped in pastel and moonlight and the smell of his vanilla body spray. Later that night, we lay there in bed, limbs entangled again, but this time quieter. The kind of silence that's not awkward, but sacred, like neither of us wanted to break it. "I like showing you this side of me," he said quietly, "because with you, I don't feel weird about it. I just feel seen." And I realized then, maybe that was the magic of us. Not just the attraction, not just the emotional roller coaster, but the fact that with him, I was discovering parts of myself I didn't even know were there. And that was something worth holding on to. The days after that night felt like a blur, not in a bad way, more like when you get off a roller coaster and your legs are jelly but you're smiling like an idiot. Jordan and I had officially settled into the "this is real" phase, and let me tell you, it was as terrifying as it was wonderful. We still had classes. We still had deadlines. But suddenly, everything felt more vivid. My morning coffee tasted better. Walking to class in the rain was romantic instead of miserable. Even standing in line at the cafeteria was bearable if he was next to me. But, as always, life doesn't let you live in a bubble for long. One night, while we were curled up on his couch, watching some B-grade horror movie, his phone buzzed. He checked it and groaned. "What's up?" I asked, half expecting it to be some dumb meme in the group chat. He held up his phone, My supervisor just sent me a revised project timeline. They moved the deadline up. I'm going to have to basically live in the lab for the next week. I tried to play it cool. Well, that sucks. He frowned. Yeah, I'm going to be pretty swamped. I nodded, pretending it didn't sting. We'd been spending almost every night together, sometimes studying, sometimes watching dumb videos, sometimes doing absolutely nothing at all. The idea of not seeing him for a few days felt weirdly hollow. It's fine, I said, forcing a smile. We'll just text. I'll send you thirst traps. You'll miss me more, he snorted. Please don't send me selfies from the gym bathroom. No promises. He leaned in and kissed me, slow and lingering. I'm gonna miss you, though, and I knew he meant it. That week was rough. Without him, everything felt a little too quiet. I'd gotten so used to falling asleep to the sound of his sleepy mumbling, or waking up to his obnoxious good morning playlist that he claimed was motivational, but was really just an excuse to blast K-pop at 7 a.m. I tried to keep busy, hung out with mutual friends, did extra readings for class for once, even cleaned my apartment like I was expecting royalty. But by midweek, I was aching to see him again. We messaged, of course. Silly memes, voice notes. He even sent me a picture of him asleep on a pile of textbooks with the caption, "This is my life now. Remember me fondly." But it wasn't the same. One night, feeling extra dramatic, I texted, "I feel like a Victorian housewife waiting for her husband to return from war." He replied instantly, "I'm literally 10 minutes down the street." Still, it felt far. The weirdest part, I missed all of him. Not just the kisses or the cuddles or the late-night talks. I missed his dumb laugh, his morning hair, the way he always forgot his charger and stole mine, the way he made tea but never finished the cup. It wasn't just the romance I missed. It was the himness of him. And that's when it hit me. This wasn't some fun experiment. This wasn't a phase. This wasn't even about his cosplay anymore, or the shock factor of seeing my best friend in a skirt. This was real, messy, honest-to-God love. By the end of the week, he finally texted, "Free tomorrow night. You still alive?" I replied, "Barely. Bring snacks." When he showed up at my door, I didn't even say hi. I just hugged him, tight, like I'd been holding my breath for days, and finally got to exhale. He chuckled into my shoulder. "Missed me that much?" "Huh, you have no idea." We spent that night doing absolutely nothing, just sitting together, watching a show we weren't really paying attention to, fingers laced together like we were afraid of letting go. At one point, he turned to me and said, "You know, I think this might be the happiest I've ever been." I didn't say anything, just leaned over, kissed his cheek, and held on a little tighter, because me too. It had been about a month since we started officially dating, and by then, everyone in our circle knew. Some of them had seen it coming from miles away. Others were shocked but supportive. No one gave us a hard time, but something unexpected happened. Jordan got invited to a small cosplay convention, nothing huge, just a local gathering in a nearby city. He'd submitted a few of his photos online under a pseudonym, and apparently, someone on the panel loved his work and wanted him to do a casual showcase. When he told me, he was ecstatic. "They actually liked my stuff," he said, pacing around his apartment in socks and half-eaten toast. I mean, really liked it. I was proud of him, genuinely. He had a creative eye, a flair for character, and the courage to be himself in a way I still struggled with sometimes. But then he said, "I want to go as this character. It's a couple cosplay. Actually, would you want to do it with me?" I froze. "Cosplay. Me." He saw my face and immediately backpedaled. "You don't have to. I just thought it could be fun. You'd look cute in the jacket." It wasn't about the outfit. It was about the idea of being seen like that, not just in a relationship, but visibly queer, in public, around strangers. I'd only just started getting used to us behind closed doors. The idea of holding his hand in a crowd still gave me pause, not because I was ashamed, but because the world could be harsh. Jordan sensed my hesitation. "You don't have to say yes," he said. Quieter this time. "I just thought maybe if you were ready." I hated disappointing him, but I wasn't sure I was ready. So I said, "Let me think about it." He smiled, though I could tell it stung. Of course. For the next few days, It sat on my mind like an itch I couldn't scratch. I kept asking myself, why did it bother me? Was it the cosplay? The attention? Or was it something deeper? That Friday night, I went to visit my parents. Just dinner, nothing fancy. But somewhere between bites of lasagna and my dad retelling his favorite embarrassing stories about me. My mom asked, "So how are things with Jordan?" I smiled. "Really good." "Actually," she nodded, setting down her glass. "He makes you calmer. Happier." It surprised me. "You think so?" "Oh, definitely. You're more present now. Less guarded." That hit me harder than I expected. Later that night, alone in my room, I kept replaying those words. Less guarded. That's what love had done to me. Peeled away layers I didn't know I was hiding behind. And the truth was, I wanted to be seen. With him. For real. So I texted him, "I'll do the cosplay, but you have to promise not to laugh when I try to put on eyeliner." His reply came instantly. "Deal, but I make no promises about not taking pictures." The day of the convention, we woke up early and got ready at his place. He was in his element, meticulous, focused, absolutely glowing. He helped me style my hair, guided me through basic makeup, even coached me on poses. And when we stepped into the venue, hand in hand, something incredible happened. No one stared. Or, well, they did, but not in the way I feared. People smiled, complimented us. A couple even asked for photos. There was this one little kid who tugged on my sleeve and said, "You two look awesome together." Jordan beamed. I nearly melted. We spent the whole afternoon laughing, eating overpriced pretzels, and basking in the joyful weirdness of it all. And, for the first time in my life, I didn't feel like I was performing or pretending. I felt like me. Later, as the sun dipped low and the con started winding down, we sat outside on the grass, exhausted but happy. Jordan leaned his head on my shoulder and said, "I'm proud of you." "You know." "For what?" "For being brave." I laughed. "Dude." I tripped over my own boots twice. I was a disaster. "No," he said, looking up at me. Not for the cosplay, for showing up for us. And in that moment, I knew this wasn't just some campus fling. This wasn't something that would fade after graduation. This was something I'd fight for. This was home. The Monday after the convention felt, oddly, normal. We were back to lectures, assignments, overflowing inboxes, and the broken vending machine in the student lounge that ate my dollar again. But something had shifted. Not in a big, dramatic way. More like the subtle change in air right before spring hits, quiet, but undeniable. Jordan and I had fallen into a rhythm. We weren't just boyfriends. We were us. We still argued about what to order for dinner. Still forgot whose turn it was to do dishes. Still teased each other over dumb stuff. But underneath it all, there was a quiet certainty. A knowing. One night, a few weeks later, we were sprawled on my bed, both half asleep, when Jordan whispered, "You ever think about how weird it is, how this all started?" "You mean the part where I got weirdly flustered over your cosplay?" He snorted. "Yeah, that." I rolled over to face him, brushing a strand of hair out of his eyes. "Sometimes I wonder if I would have figured it out on my own. If you hadn't shown me those pictures." He shrugged. "Maybe, or maybe I just sped up the process." I smiled. "Either way, I'm glad you did." He reached over and squeezed my hand. "Me too." There was a pause. Then he said, softly, "I used to think I'd never get to have this. Like I'd always be the friend, the guy people laughed with. But never looked it that way." That stung more than I expected. "Hey," I said gently, "you were always more than that." He smiled. A little sadly. "Yeah, but you didn't see it. Not back then." I pulled him closer. "That wasn't about you." "Jordan." "That was about me not being ready to see anything clearly." He didn't answer, but the way he held on to me tighter told me enough. We didn't need grand gestures or big speeches. We'd had our moment in the spotlight. Now came the real part, the day-to-day showing up for each other. The quiet coffee mornings, the sleepy good nights, the shared playlists and the bad jokes and the long silences that didn't feel awkward anymore. And yeah, the occasional cosplay. Weeks turned into months. We survived finals, planned a summer trip together, even started talking about getting a place off campus next year. Nothing was set in stone. But for once, that didn't scare me, because whatever came next, I knew who I wanted to face it with. People still ask sometimes, "Wait, how did you guys get together?" And every time, I just laugh and say, "Well, it all started with a really cute girl in a photo, who turned out to be a really cute boy, who turned out to be the love of my life. So yeah, I guess you could say my so-called fragile heterosexuality didn't stand a chance. And honestly, I've never been happier. Thanks for tuning in to Reddit Stories. New tales drop daily drama, love, or ghostly glories. Hit like, subscribe, and ring that bell so you won't miss the next story we tell. Got thoughts to share? Drop them below. We read them all, just so you know.